the people who bullied Josie Cunningham for the things that she did several years ago are the cause of those things. For some reason, she popped into my head the other day, and it got me wondering what she was up to now, and I ended up stumbling upon this documentary that's on Channel 4. And surprise, surprise, it turns out that actually the majority of the things the media said about her completely omitted the important parts. They made her out to be this terrible person when actually she's a prime example of the hashtag mental health matters. People are throwing this hashtag around, certainly now, but I bet any amount of money that if that hashtag was as prominent now as it was several years ago as it is now, the people who bullied her online because of the things she was doing would also be using that hashtag. I want to talk about this documentary, but I'm probably going to just go off on a rant about the bullies who really kind of made her who she is. And it's just so ironic that the people who bullied her as a child, well, as a teenager, caused her, the low self-esteem, the mental health problems, the sleepless nights, that resulted in her getting breast surgery on the NHS. So if they hadn't bullied her to begin with, maybe that never would have happened. And basically, if you don't know or can't remember who Josie Cunningham is, 4-5 years ago, maybe even longer, she became famous overnight because the headline stated that she got a breast enlargement on the NHS. Yes, she did. And the documentary starts with that aspect. It follows her over the course of quite a while, actually. I think maybe several weeks, maybe longer. And, it talks in a linear way about that. But what this documentary mentions at the beginning, that I don't remember ever having read back in 2013, I can confirm it was 8 years ago, is that she actually had a benign breast disorder that meant she had no breast tissue. And she talks quite emotionally about how she was bullied. And her mother actually steps in and talks a bit about the severity of that bullying. And we are talking physical, brutal bullying, really horrible, nasty, not just snide remarks. We are talking the lowest of the low here. And obviously anybody who's bullied for something that they're already insecure about is going to have a problem with that for probably the rest of their life. And the documentary mentions that she had years of consultations. And then the NHS obviously decided they would agree to give her a breast enlargement on the NHS. And she's perfectly entitled to that. I think it's absolutely no different to somebody who's got any other kind of physical thing that they feel uncomfortable about that causes them so much stress and anxiety, because it's mental health. It's not a cosmetic surgery. I mean, technically it is, but actually it's not. It's, in a way, it's a mental health procedure. And yeah, one could argue that she didn't have to go to a 32DD, but who cares? It doesn't cost more to go bigger. I mean, maybe the implants cost a tiny bit more to make, but it's not like it's costing more. And that I just think is so ironic, that she felt that low about herself and had to have years of consultations because of the way the bullies made her feel. And then she gets this surgery to make her feel a little bit better, and the bullies are the one who are bullying her for getting the surgery on the NHS. Well, if you hadn't bullied her in the first place, maybe her self-esteem wouldn't have been quite so low that the NHS wouldn't have, found a reason to give her the surgery. She might have eventually paid for it herself, but the NHS don't just dish out surgeries without truly appreciating how much distress that individual is in. And this was all explained within 5 minutes of the documentary. And I just thought the media never, obviously, the media, of course, they didn't focus on that. They wanted to portray her as this bad person. And a lot of this documentary looks at things that the media has said, and Josie gets a chance to actually rebut that and say, well, either I didn't say that, or I said that as a passing remark and somebody has latched onto it and blown it up. And we all know the media takes things out of proportions, but we only, as a society, acknowledge that when it suits us. So if somebody had said something bad in the press about Boris Johnson, we lap it up, because we don't care. somebody says something bad about Josie Cunningham, people took it and ran with it because it suits us as readers. And actually watching this documentary is really eye-opening. Now, I'm not saying she's a saint, and I'm not saying that she's made a lot of right decisions, but a lot of what she said and did was actually because of her advisor. I believe his name was Rob, who advised her to do things like pose with the NHS tape and wearing nothing else, and the whole selling tickets for her birth thing. She didn't actually want to do that. And, she kept saying that she hoped she actually went into labour early, etc. So even though she's doing things that are being suggested to her, she's still a human being and doesn't actually want to have to go through with these things. But she's been getting, bullied her whole life because of something, and now she has that one thing that she didn't have that ruined her teenage years. People are going to hate her anyway. So I think she said it herself, she's going to ride the wave. Because, why not? If you can make money out of it, people are not going to stop hating her at the click of a finger. So go for it. Say more controversial things, get more money out of it. When things die down, she'll have the cash in the bank and a little bit of peace. And yeah, things did die down. I'd forgotten her name when she popped into my head. I could kind of see her face, and it took me a while to remember her name again. And I just think that this documentary is 100% worth watching. And we get to see a lot of behind the scenes things. We get to see behind the scenes when she does an interview this morning. It's not all retroactive. A lot of it is in real time. I think this is about 1.5 years after she first became famous overnight. So a decent amount of time has passed and people still outraged. I think this was triggered after she started to get getting taxis for the kids to go to school on the taxpayers' money. But think about it. Now, I wasn't that pleased with that, but think about it. The only reason she's getting taxis for the kids, and we have to say just for the kids, she's not like getting a taxi off to the hairdressers or to get her nails done, is because if she goes on the bus, she will be physically abused. Those children will fall victim to the hatred thrown at her mother. So again, the bullies have bullied her online and probably in person as well, and fueled this hatred that's led her to get taxis on the taxis on the taxpayers' money. Bit of a mouthful. And then they're getting outraged by it. Well, be kind. I'm not saying you have to like what she does, but just shut up. And if you don't, if there's no threat, then she wouldn't have needed to do that. So it's kind of like self-fulfilling. The bullies bullied her when she was a teenager, so she lost all self-esteem, all confidence, had years of consultations. The NHS said, yeah, okay, we can see that this has obviously ruined a lot of your mental health. That happens. Sure, she went bigger than, necessary, but as I said, financially makes no difference. And then the bullies got outraged. And obviously, I'm not saying the people who bullied her as a teen or the people who are bullying her now, but it's the same mentality. And then those people bullied her for getting that, and then she had to get transport to and from school because there was a real physical threat. And then the bullies got outraged about that. It's like, well, what did you want? What did you expect would happen? It doesn't make any sense. It's double standards and it's absolute hypocrisy, and it's just ridiculous. I feel that way even before I watched this documentary. And before I knew all of the intricacies of this, it was blatantly obvious that bullies were fueling the things that they hated. I guess in a more contemporary setting, it's like anti-maskers going out and protesting, but by going out and protesting in groups, they're spreading the virus, and therefore we need to wear masks for longer. Self-fulfilling. Documentary is very well edited, very well put together, quite engaging. It's definitely done in her favour. I did wonder, to begin with, whether it would be an anti-Josie Cunningham documentary. Obviously, it wouldn't blatantly say that, but I thought maybe it might try and highlight the negative things. But it isn't. It's quite balanced. There's definitely more a chance for her to have her say, but at the same time, it doesn't sugarcoat any of the more outrageous things she's done. And Also, it is not for kids. There is a point where we get to see like her page 3 photo shoot and things. I say we get to, like it was a treat. We do see the page 3 photo shoot, and that's, you know, she actually made a point, and I thought it was actually a really good point, where she said if you haven't had legs your whole life, you want to be Usain Bolt. If you suddenly get legs, you know, prosthetics or whatever, you want to, you know, make the most of them. And it's exactly the same, you know, she never had breasts, she got breasts. Yeah, necessarily didn't need to flash them to the world, but it's like a huge weight lifted off her shoulders, and ironically put onto her back. But she actually says a lot of things that make a lot of sense, and the media completely ignored all of this. And this documentary actually humanizes her and makes her feel like a real person with real emotions, who is being guided through being made famous overnight. To be frank, she was literally a nobody in terms of the public eye before this. And anybody who's going to be thrown into the media's attention, you know, the media are wild animals. The press are out of control. And they behave like animals to get a pay packet. Why can't she do the same? It's double standards for everybody except her, and I think that's disgusting. This documentary is very eye-opening. Some people may still not like her after this, but hopefully it will be a bit more educational about the way you treat people and how that can have a knock-on effect. Think before you speak. Hashtag mental health awareness, because it's completely self-fulfilling. And I'm not saying I want to be best friends with Josie Cunningham, but this documentary's definitely changed my opinion about her, and I think everybody who had an opinion about her at the time, anybody who still has an opinion about her, you need to watch this.